like a manatee, like a manatee. Greetings. Welcome back to join me. Bram Stoker's Dracula, Chapter 26, Dr. Seward's Diary, 29th October. This is written in the train from Varna to Galatz. Last night we all assembled a little before the time of sunset. Each of us had done his work as well as he could, so far as thought and endeavor and opportunity go. We are prepared for the whole of our journey and for our work when we get to Galatz. When the usual time came around, Mrs. Harker prepared herself for her hypnotic effort, and after a longer and more strenuous effort on the part of Van Helsing than has been unusually necessary, she sank into the trance. Usually she speaks on a hint, but this time the professor had to ask her questions, and to ask them pretty resolutely, before we could learn anything. At last her answer came. "I can see nothing. We are still. There are no waves lapping, but only a steady swirl of water softly running against the hawser. I can hear men's voices calling, near and far, and the roll and creak of oars in the rowlocks. A gun is fired somewhere. The echo of it seems far away. There's tramping of feet overhead, and ropes and chairs are dragged along. What is this? There is a gleam of light. I can feel the air blowing upon me." Here she stopped. She had risen as if impulsively from where she lay on the sofa, and raised both her hands, palms upwards, as if lifting a weight. Van Helsing and I looked at each other with understanding. Quincy raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at her intently, whilst Harker's hand instinctively closed round the hilt of his kukri. There was a long pause. We all knew that the time when she could speak was passing, but we felt that it was useless to say anything. Suddenly she sat up, and as she opened her eyes, said sweetly, "Would none of you like a cup of tea? You must all be so tired." We could only make her happy, and so acquiesced, she bustled off to go to get tea. When she had gone, Van Helsing said, "You see, my friends, he's close to land. He has left his earth chest, but he has yet to get on shore. In the night he may lie hidden somewhere, but if he not carried on shore, or if the ship do not touch it, he cannot achieve the land. In such case he can, if it be in the night, change his form and jump or fly on shore, as he did at Whitby. But if the day come before he get on shore, then, unless he be carried, he cannot escape. And if he be carried, then the customs man may discover what the box contains. Thus, in fine, if he escape not on shore tonight or before dawn, there will be the whole day lost to him. We may then arrive in time, for if he escape not tonight, we shall come on him in daytime, boxed up and at our mercy, for he dared not be his true self, awake and visible, lest he be discovered. There was no more to be said, so we waited in patience until the dawn, at which time we might learn more from Mrs. Harker. Early this morning we listened with breathless anxiety for her response in her trance. The hypnotic stage was even longer in coming than before, and when it came, the time remaining until full sunrise was so short that we began to despair, and Helsing seemed to throw his whole soul into the effort. At last, in obedience to his will, she made reply. "All is dark. I hear lapping water, level with me, and some creaking as of wood on wood." She paused, and the red sun shot up. "We must wait till tonight." And so it is that we are traveling towards Galatz in an agony of expectation. We are due to arrive between 2 and 3 in the morning, but already at Bucharest we are 3 hours late, so we cannot possibly get in till well after sunup. Thus we shall have 2 more hypnotic messages from Mrs. Harker. Either or both may possibly throw more light on what is happening. Later. Sunset has come and gone. Fortunately it came at a time when there was no distraction, for had it occurred whilst we were at a station, we might not have secured the necessary calm and isolation. Mrs. Harker yielded to the hypnotic influence even less readily than this morning. I am in fear that her power of reading the Count's sensations may die away, just when we want it most. It seems to me that her imagination is beginning to work. While she has been in the trance hitherto, she has confined herself to the simplest of facts. If this goes on, it may ultimately mislead us. If I thought that the Count's power over her would die away equally with her power of knowledge, it would be a happy thought. But I am afraid that it may not be so. When she did speak, her words were enigmatical. Something is going out. I can feel it pass me like a cold wind. I can hear far off confused sounds as of men talking in strange tongues, fierce falling water, and the howling of wolves. She stopped, and a shudder ran through her, increasing in intensity for a few seconds, till at the end she shook as though in a palsy. She said no more, even in answer to the professor's imperative questioning. When she woke from the trance, she was cold and exhausted and languid, but her mind was all alert. She could not remember anything, but asked what she had said. When she was told, she pondered over it deeply for a long time and in silence. 30th October, 7 a.m. We are near Galatz now, and I may not have time to write later. Sunrise this morning was anxiously looked for by us all, knowing of the increasing difficulty of procuring the hypnotic trance when Helsing began his passes earlier than usual. They produced no effort, however, until the regular time, when she yielded with a still greater difficulty. Only a minute before the sun rose. The professor lost no time in his questioning. Her answer came with equal quickness. All is dark, I hear the water swirling by, level with my ears, and the creaking of wood on wood. Kettle low, far off, there is another sound, a queer one like. She stopped and grew white, and whiter still. Go on, speak, I command you, said Van Helsing in an agonized voice. At the same time there was despair in his eyes, for the risen sun was reddening even Mrs. Harker's pale face. She opened her eyes, and we all started as she said sweetly and seemingly with the utmost concern, "Oh, Professor, why ask me to do what you know I can't? I don't remember anything." Then, seeing the look of amazement on our faces, she said, turning from one to the other, "What have I said? What have I done? I know nothing, only that I was lying here, half asleep, and I heard you say, 'Go on, speak, I command you.' It seemed so funny to hear you order me about as if I were a bad child." "Oh, Madam Mina," he said sadly, "it is proof, if proof be needed, of how I love and honor you, when a word for your good, spoken more earnest than ever, can seem so strange, because it is to order her whom I am proud to obey. The whistles are sounding, we are nearing Galatz. We are on fire with anxiety and eagerness." Mina Harker's journal, 30th October. Mr. Morris took me to the hotel where our rooms had been ordered by telegraph, he being the one who could best be spared, since he does not speak any foreign language. The forces were distributed much as they had been at Varna, except that Lord Godalming went to the Vice-Consul, as his rank might serve as an immediate guarantee of some sort to the official, we being in extreme hurry. Jonathan and the two doctors went to the shipping agent to learn particulars of the arrival of the Gerina Catherine. Later, Lord Godalming has returned. The consul is away and the vice-consul sick, so the routine work has been attended to by a clerk. He was very obliging and offered to do anything in his power. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 30th October. At 9 o'clock, Dr. Van Helsing, Dr. Seward, and I called on Messrs. Messrs. Mackenzie and Steinkopf, the agents of the London firm of Hapgood. They had received a wire from London in answer to Lord Godalming's telegraphed request, asking them to show us any civility in their power. They were more than kind and courteous, and took us at once on board the Gerina Catherine, which lay at anchor out in the river harbour. There we saw the captain, Donaldson by name, who told us of his voyage. He said that in all his life he had never had so favourable a run. "Man," he said, "but it made us fear, for we explicit that we should have to pay for it with some rare piece or little luck, so as to keep up the average. It's no canny to run frae London to the Black Sea with a wind ahind ye, as though the Dale himself were blown on yourself for his end purpose. And all the time we could no spare a thing. Gin we were nigh a ship, or a part or a headland, a fog fell on us and travelled with us, till when, after it had lifted, and we looked out, the Dale thing could we see. We ran by Gibraltar without being able to signal until we came to the Dardanelles and had to wait to get our permit to pass. We never were within hail or aught. At first I was inclined to slack off sail and beat about till the fog was lifted, but whilst I thought that if the Dale was minded to get us into the Black Sea quick, he was like to do whether we would or no. If we had a quick voyage, it would be no to our miscredit with the honest, or no hurt to our traffic, and the old man who had served his own purpose, would be decently grateful to us for no hindering him. This mixture of simplicity and cunning, of superstition and commercial reasoning, aroused Van Helsing, who said, "My friend, that devil is more clever than he is thought by some, and he know when he meet his match." The skipper was not displeased with the compliment and went on. "When we got past the Bosphorus, the men began to grumble. Some of them, the Romanians, came and asked me to heave overboard a big box, which had been put on board by a queer-looking old man just before we had started for London. I had seen them spear the fellow and put out their 2 fingers when they saw him to guard against the evil eye. Man, but the superstition of foreigners is perfectly ridiculous. I sent them about the business pretty quick, or it's just after the fog closed in on us, I felt a wee bit as they did, and then something. There, I wouldn't say it was again the bit boss. Well, on we went, and as the fog didn't light up for 5 days, I just let the wind carry us, for if the devil wanted to get somewhere, well, he would fetch it up a reed. And if he didn't, well, we keep a sharp lookout anyhow. Sure enough, we had a ferryway on deep water all the time, and 2 days ago, when the morning sun came through the fog, we found ourselves just in the river opposite Galatz. The Romanians were wild and wanted me right or wrong to take out the box and fling it in the river. I had to argue with them about it with a handspike, and when the last of them rose off the deck with his head in his hand, I had convinced them that evil eye or no evil, the property and the trust of my owners were better in my hands than in the river Danube. They had, mind you, taken a box on the deck ready to fling in, and as it was marked Galatz via Varna, I thought I'd let it lay till we discharged on the port and get rid of it together. We didn't do much clearing that day, had to remain the niche at anchor, but in the morning, drawing early, an hour before sunset, a man came aboard with an order written to him from England to receive a box marked for 1 Count Dracula. Sure enough, the matter was one ready to his hand. He had his papers, a read, and glad I was to be rid of the damn thing, for I was beginning myself to feel uneasy at it. If the Dale did have any luggage aboard the ship, I'm thinking it was none other than that same. What was the name of the man who took it? Asked Dr. Van Helsing, with restrained eagerness. I will tell ye quick, he answered, and stepping down to his cabin, produced a receipt signed Immanuel Hildesheim. Bergenstrasse 16 was the address. We found out that this was all the captain knew, so with thanks we came away. We found Hildesheim in his office, a Hebrew of rather the Adelphi type, with a nose like a sheep and a fez. His arguments were pointed with specie. We doing the punctuation, and with a little bargaining he told us what he knew. This turned out to be simple but important. He had received a letter from Mr. de Ville of London, telling him to receive, if possible, before sunrise, so as to avoid customs, a box which would arrive at Galatz in the Jarina Katarine. This he was to give in charge to a certain Petrovsky who dealt with Slovaks who traded down the river of the port. He had been paid for his work by an English banknote, which had been duly cashed for gold at the Danube International Bank. When Skinsky had come to him, he had taken him to the ship and handed over the box so as to save porterage. That was all he knew. We then sought for Skinsky, but were unable to find him. One of his neighbors, who did not seem to bear him any affection, said that he had gone away 2 days before, no one knew whither. This was corroborated by his landlord, who had received by messenger the key of the house together with the rent due in English money. This had been between 10 and 11 o'clock last night. We were at a standstill again. Whilst we were talking, one came running and breathlessly gasped out that the body of Skinsky had been found inside the wall of the churchyard of St. Peter, and that the throat had been torn open as if by some wild animal. Those we had been speaking with ran off to see the horror, the women crying out, "This is the work of a Slovak!" We hurried away, lest we should have been in some way drawn into the affair and so detained. As we came home, we could arrive at no definite conclusion. We were all convinced that the box was on its way by water to somewhere, but where that might be, we would have to discover. With heavy hearts we came home to the Hotel to Mina. When we met together, the first thing was to consult as to taking Mina again into our confidence. Things are getting desperate, and it is at least a chance, though a zealous one. As a preliminary step, I was released from my promise to her.